Hi, let's solve today's daily challenge, that is divide array into arrays with max difference. So in this question, we are given an integer array nums of size n and positive integer k. And we need to divide the array into one or more arrays of size 3 satisfying the following conditions. Alright, so we are given an array and we are given this integer k. Now let's read what we have to basically do. So here it's mentioned that we have to divide this array that is given to us in one or more arrays of size 3, right? So we have to divide this array into arrays of size 3. Okay, now what is special about the arrays that will be, that we will get after dividing this nums array? So each element of nums should be exactly one array, right? So that basically means that when we are going to divide this array, right, so we cannot use an element of this array twice, right? We have to use one element only once, right? So for example, let's say I divide the array as 134, right, and let's say the next array is 487, then that is a wrong division, right? So we have to divide it like 134, then 879, then 351, and so on, right? So this way we have to divide. So that is, each element should be in exactly one array. Then the second condition is the difference between any two elements in one array is less than or equal to k, right? So this is the use of this integer k that is given to us. That is, let me write it here. So let's say we divide this array with these elements abc, let's assume, right, after taking, so this is one part of the division of this array, that is abc. So the second condition mentions that a minus b should be less than equal to k, b minus c should be less than equal to k, and a minus c. So we are taking the abs of this, okay, abs, right? So it can be c minus a minus c and should be less than equal to k, right? So this is what is mentioned in the second condition that is given here. The difference between any two elements in one array is less than or equal to k. So this is the kind of division that we have to make, and following these conditions we have to divide this nums array, right? So we need to return a 2D array containing all the arrays, right, of size 3. And if it is impossible to satisfy the conditions, we have to return an empty array. And if there are multiple answers, then we can return any of them. All right, so let's say I'm trying to divide this array, right? And let's say I divided it successfully, like here you can see 113 is there, 345 is there, 789 is there. So let's say this 789, in this case what happens, this is a 10, right? So instead of 9 we had 10 in this array. Then this, we could have divided two subarrays which are following these two condition, but the last subarray that we are dividing is not following. In that case we have to return impossible. So it is impossible to satisfy the condition, then we have to return an empty array, correct? So we will not return these two arrays as well, right, but an empty array, because one of the subarrays is not following these conditions, right? So either all the subarrays should follow the condition, only then we will be returning the answer, otherwise we have to return an empty array even though there is only one subarray which is not following these two conditions, right? So that is basically what the question is, right? So here let's see how we will be dividing this particular array, right? Let's try to discuss the approach. So let me remove this. All right, now how will we solve this question, right? So one way you will be thinking, right, we can do 3 iterations in this array and try to find these 3 elements, right, each time. But don't you think that would be a very very complex solution, right? Instead of that, what we can do is we can sort this array, right? So that is more intuitive. If we sort this array, because the thing is that we have to follow is we need to get something like this, that is all the elements of the array, right, that we have. If we take any two of those elements, right, that the abc thing that we saw, if we take any of these two elements, the difference should be less than equal to k. So the thing is, if I sort this array, then it will become easy for me to divide it into 3 parts, right? So let's sort this array. So we'll have 1 1 3 is present twice, then 4 5 and 4, 5, and then we have 7, 8, 9. All right, so this is our array now. So now what we want to do is we want to divide into 3 parts. Now I can say when I sort this array, right? When I have sorted this array, then I can just, iterate in the sorted array and try to see if the division works or not. Now what you will do, you will take the first 3 elements, then the next 3 elements, and the next 3 elements, right? So you'll divide the array in sets of 3, and then you will check the second condition on these, right? And the second condition is this, that is difference between any two of these values should be what? Less than equal to k. Now another observation you can make here is that because it is, we are checking a minus b, we are checking b minus c, we are checking, let's say, c minus a, right? And they all should be less than equal to k, right? But now I'm seeing I have sorted my array, so I can leverage that, right? I can take advantage of sorting the array, and that advantage is that I have to only check if this a minus c value is less than equal to k. Then automatically, because now the array is sorted, right? That means a is less than b is less than c, or they might be equal as well. So this is the condition, right? So if I simply check for a minus c, right, if they are less than equal to k, the difference is less than equal to k, then definitely a minus b and b minus c will also be less than equal to k, right? So this is the advantage of sorting the array, right? Now imagine if we didn't sort the array, then we would have to, manually check for all these 3 conditions, right? As well as, like, just to search for these elements, right, we would not be able to form a solution, right? All right, so I hope now you have understood. What are we going to do? First, sort the array, right? And then divide the array into 3 sets and simply check if a minus c is less than equal to k. So a is basically, here in this case, you can see a is 1 and c is 3. So as I said, we are just, taking the ABS, or you can say c minus a, because now c minus a will always be, greater than 0, right? So you can see that this is 2. That is great. For 3 minus 5, you can see it is also 2. For 7 minus 9, you can see it is also 2. So less than equal to k. So definitely you can divide this array into sub-arrays of size 3, as well as following this condition, that is a minus c is less than equal to k, right? So this is basically how you have to solve this question. Now what will the time complexity for this approach? It will be n log n, and then again to traverse the sorted array, it will be n, right? So it is basically n plus n log n, so which is nothing but n log n, correct? So this is the time complexity for this approach. So this is basically how you have to solve this question. Now let's go and code. So let me open this up, and first I'll create my ans array in which I have to return the answer. All right, and I will also take the size n inside of this n variable. Right, now we have done 2 things. Then I have to sort the nums array that we have. So I'll say nums dot begin comma nums dot end. Okay, now after I'm done with this, I have to loop inside of this sorted array. So I'll simply start with int I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Okay, now the thing, we will not be using I plus plus here. The reason is we want groups of 3. So as I said, after we have sorted the array, we have to divide into sets of 3. So what I can do is, if this is one set, right? So this set is from 0 to 2 index, correct? And the next set starts from 3 to 3, 4, 5th index, correct? Then it starts from 6 up to 8 index. So basically what we have is, if I simply do I plus equal to 3, right? So I will reach this. So when I is 0, then similarly 3 plus 3 is 6. So I will reach to the starting point of the third subarray, right? So we can simply skip I variable to by 3, right? Because we are dividing sets of 3 inside of this array. Okay, after we are done with that, we can simply check that the last element of the set that we have minus the first element of that set, right? That is a minus c. That should be less than equal to k. If it is, then we will put it inside of our answer array, right? So let's check that. Okay, before we check that, we have to check another condition, that the I plus 2, that is the c index that we are going to check, is less than n or not, right? It should be in bounds. All right, otherwise you can either start the iteration from I is equal to 2 as well, but let's go with this approach. Then we have nums of I plus 2, that is the c, minus nums of I, it should be less than equal to k. Now why are we checking this? We are not using ABS because we know the array is already sorted, so the difference will always be greater than equal to 0, right? So if this condition is true, then I can simply make an array of these three elements and put it inside of my answer vector. So I'll say ans.push back, and here we will push nums of I plus 1 and nums of I plus 2, right? Then let's say this condition is not true. In that case, we have to simply return an empty array. Right now, why can we simply return this empty array? That is because then even if one subarray or one set of this array of size 3 is not satisfying these two conditions, then we cannot divide the array in such parts, right? So we have to simply return an empty array. That is also written here, right? If it is impossible to satisfy the conditions, return an empty array. Otherwise, you can simply put it inside of your vector, right? And if all the subarrays of size 3 follows this condition only, then we will be getting an answer, right? So after this loop, we can return our ans, right? So that is it. Let's try to run it. So it's accepted, right? So this is basically how we have to solve this question.